You don't lose people when you walk away. You lose them when you stop respecting yourself. There's a cold truth that not everyone dares to face. People don't just stop respecting you out of nowhere. They stop when they sense that you no longer respect yourself. Because every time you stay silent instead of speaking up, every time you try to explain instead of walking away, and every time you remain in a situation that makes you feel small, you slowly begin to disappear in the eyes of others. You may have said it's okay while your heart was breaking. You may have made endless excuses for someone's hurtful behavior, not because you didn't see it, but because you were afraid of losing them. And you may have stayed far too long in a relationship where respect had already died, not because you were blind, but because you couldn't bear the loneliness that might follow letting go. Eventually, your patience is mistaken for silence, your kindness turns into obligation, and your presence becomes so constant that it's taken for granted. They no longer see you as someone to cherish, just someone who's always there, no matter how they treat you. The truth is, people don't stop respecting you, you allow it to happen. And what's worse, you often don't even realize you're trading your self-worth for scraps of validation. But here's the shift: you don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. And you certainly don't need to make someone understand you. Because real respect doesn't come from your justifications, it comes from how firmly you hold your value in silence. When you walk away without a word, you're not just leaving someone behind, you're returning to yourself. And that has more power than any comeback or explanation ever could. You don't need to scream to be heard. Sometimes silence is the loudest message you can send. In today's video, we'll uncover 5 deep reasons why people lose respect for you, and more importantly, why walking away in silence, without defending or warning, is the most powerful way to reclaim your dignity and inner strength. You don't need approval. You need clarity. And sometimes the clearest message is saying nothing at all. 1. You explain too much instead of acting. In a world where everyone is desperate to be understood, the ones who are truly respected are those who don't feel the need to over-explain. Because every time you feel the urge to justify a right decision, every time you apologize for setting a personal boundary, and every time you feel guilty for saying no, you're unconsciously placing the person in the position of the judge, while you stand in the position of the defendant. The truth is, people don't respect those who always need to explain themselves. They respect those who act with clarity, without defending, without hesitating, and without being swayed by others' opinions. The more you talk, the more your choices appear uncertain. The more you try to clarify, the more you lose that quiet authority that self-respecting people naturally radiate. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Don't waste time trying to prove you're a good person, just be one. Because someone who truly lives by their values doesn't have to explain them. They operate from a place of clarity, silent, but powerful." You may think that explaining yourself is a sign of respect, but in reality, when you're dealing with someone who never intended to listen in the first place, your explanations only make you appear weaker. They don't need to understand why you're walking away, and you don't need them to understand. If they truly respected you, they would have never put you in a position where walking away was your only option. Look at those who are genuinely respected. They don't argue endlessly. They speak little, but act decisively. They don't repeat their boundaries over and over, because once is enough. They don't say, "I'll leave if you do that again," because they leave the first time and they don't leave a note. Respect is earned through consistency and silence, not through drawn-out conversations. A firm decision, carried out without warning, is often more powerful than 100 explanations. So next time you feel the urge to explain so they'll understand, ask yourself, am I seeking to be understood, or am I giving up the right to walk away in silence? Because you owe no one an explanation for protecting your self-respect. 2. You stay too long in the wrong relationships. Not everyone who hurts you is a bad person, but anyone who repeatedly hurts you after being forgiven is someone who's lost respect for you. And they continue not because they don't know they're wrong, but because they know you won't leave. Most people don't lose respect for you over one mistake. They lose it when they realize you're still sticking around, even though they stop treating you with the same care they once did. The more you tolerate, the more they test. The more you explain, the less they listen. And the more you hope they'll change, the more convinced they become that they don't have to. The longer you stay in the wrong place, the louder your silence says, "I accept this. I don't believe I deserve better." You can say you're hurt. You can say you're disappointed. But if your actions don't align with those words, they'll only pay attention to what you choose, not what you say. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Don't preach your values, live them. And if you believe you deserve respect, then walk away the moment you're being disrespected, not after you've exhausted yourself trying to fix something that can't be fixed." Because respect isn't earned by how much good you do for someone. It's earned by knowing when to stop and being strong enough to walk away without announcement, without breaking down, and without needing to explain yourself. People don't feel the loss when you threaten to leave. They feel it when you actually do, quietly, without drama, without one last speech. Just your absence, total and final. And that's when they realize you're not someone they can manipulate anymore. The more you try to explain one more time, the more they feel like you still need them. But the more silently you pull away, the more they feel that you've already outgrown them, not with bitterness, but with a kind of calm that's deeply unsettling. So if you're stuck in a relationship that makes you feel smaller than you are, remember this. Respect cannot survive where self-respect has already died. And sometimes, the only way people will realize your value is to feel the weight of your absence, rather than hear another word from you. 3. You sacrifice your core values just to be loved. You might believe that the more love you give, the more people will appreciate you. But the reality is far harsher when you begin sacrificing your core values just to keep someone. You don't make them love you more, you just make them believe you have no boundaries. Because people don't respect what you don't respect in yourself. When you start adjusting your thoughts, suppressing your feelings, or compromising your moral compass just to keep someone comfortable, you're placing your identity beneath their approval. And the more often that happens, the less you become, and the more you turn into a version of yourself that they can control. The more you compromise, the smaller your authentic space becomes. The more you stay silent in the face of what's wrong, the more you allow others to redraw your boundaries. And the more you act kind by being overly agreeable, the more they begin to devalue you, not because you lack worth, but because you're too willing to trade away. A person grounded in Stoic strength never loses themselves just to be loved. They love deeply, but within the framework of self-respect and clarity. They give freely, but never dissolve their identity in the process. They understand this truth. The more you need someone's approval, the less respect they'll give you. The more you show you're willing to do anything to be kept around, the more the other person believes you have no other options. And once you emotionally depend on them, they stop trying because they know you won't walk away. But here's what you must remember. Love should never require you to give up your dignity, your principles, or your truth. If the relationship forces you to stay quiet when you want to speak, to say yes when your soul is screaming no, or to smile while you're breaking inside, then it's not love. It's emotional manipulation disguised as affection. The solution isn't to change them. It isn't to make them understand how deeply they hurt you. The solution is to stop. You don't need to yell to be heard. You just need to turn away without anger, without regret, and without a single explanation. Because when you're no longer afraid of losing someone, that's when they finally realize what it means to lose you. And that realization doesn't come from your words, it comes from your silence. 4. You don't know when to walk away. One of the biggest reasons people lose respect for you isn't about how you love them, it's about not knowing when to stop. When you stay in a situation that has clearly turned toxic, when you keep hoping while they've stopped trying, and when you cling to something that's been rotting for a long time, you're not just hurting yourself, you're destroying how they see you. The truth is, you don't have to wait until everything is shattered. You should walk away the moment you realize you're being disrespected, the moment your voice stops mattering, or the moment your presence is treated as something guaranteed. Because people don't respect endless patience. They respect clear boundaries and a conscious awareness of when enough is enough. When you stay and give them one more chance, they don't see compassion, they see fear. And at that very moment, the power dynamic shifts. Epictetus said, "If someone does wrong, that's their problem. Yours is how you respond. You can't control how others behave, but you can absolutely control how you respond. And if you respond by quietly walking away, you're sending a message louder than any argument. I don't need chaos in my life." Many people believe walking away means weakness, defeat, or lack of courage. But in reality, the weak are the ones who stay, desperate for validation from someone who no longer respects them. The strong, on the other hand, walk away without needing to be understood, without waiting for apologies, and without proving anything. Because they've learned this: self-respect doesn't need to be explained. It needs to be protected. The longer you hesitate, the more you dilute the weight of your silence. But when you walk away at the right moment, quietly, without drama, without warning, you force the other person to sit alone with the very behavior they thought was acceptable. And they begin to realize you didn't leave because you were weak. You left because you were strong enough to no longer need them. Always remember, not every battle is meant to be fought. Some wars are won by simply not showing up. And in this world, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away without a word. Five, you're so afraid of losing others that you lose yourself. Respect isn't taken from you, it's surrendered, often silently from within. And the tragic irony is, you usually don't even realize it's happening, because you're too busy fearing the loss of someone else to notice you're losing yourself. You're afraid of losing the relationship, afraid of losing an opportunity, a place in someone's heart, or simply afraid of being left alone. That fear is what keeps you quiet when you should speak up, nodding when your heart is screaming no, and staying even when your spirit is breaking. But every time you do that, you're not preserving a bond, you're abandoning in your own integrity. People don't respect you when they sense that you fear losing them more than losing your dignity. They'll test you, push your limits, and when they see you still enduring, even in pain, even in silence, even in despair, they'll assume you have nowhere else to go. But here's the truth: you always have a choice, the choice to return to yourself. Someone who lives with stoic strength doesn't let emotions override their core values. They don't fear loneliness so much that they accept disrespect. They understand that the loneliness of being alone is far gentler than the loneliness of being with someone who makes you feel invisible. The more afraid you are of loss, the tighter you cling. But the tighter you cling, the more the other person pulls away. And in the end, you don't just lose them, you lose the version of yourself that once stood tall with confidence and self-worth. That doesn't mean you shouldn't love deeply or make sacrifices. But real love never asks you to disappear. It never demands you to suppress your voice, lower your standards, or trade your self-respect for someone's temporary attention. The solution isn't to become the perfect person in their eyes or to convince them that you're worthy of better treatment. The solution, once again, is to walk away. No threats, no anger, no dramatic letter. Just a silent absence, firm, final, and non-negotiable. Because the moment you stop fearing the loss of someone else, you become someone they're afraid to lose. Not because you said something, but because you said nothing and meant it. If you look back at all the reasons why people lose respect for you, from over-explaining, staying too long, compromising your values, being afraid to walk away, to fearing loss more than self-abandonment, you'll see one common thread. You allowed others to dim your light. No one can strip you of your dignity unless you hand it over first. No one can continue to disrespect you unless you let them repeatedly without consequence. And no one can keep controlling you if you're silent enough for them to hear the echo of your absence. In this noisy world where everyone is trying to talk more, prove more, explain more, the one who knows when to stay silent and walk away holds the most power. Because true respect doesn't come from making someone like you. It comes from making it clear that you don't need them in order to be yourself. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you left. You don't need to rewrite what they refuse to read. You don't need to leave one last message. You just need to walk away at the right moment, in quiet confidence, with complete peace. That's not revenge. That's awakening. That's not about hurting them. That's about healing you. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, Marcus Aurelius. So the next time you feel disrespected, dismissed, or treated like an option, remember this. You don't need to shout to reclaim your worth. Just walk away in silence. Your absence will say everything.